Welcome to Part 2 of the Enlightenment screencast. We begin with the new social sciences. The belief in logic and reason promoted the beginnings of social sciences. Inductive reasoning, which was developed by English philosopher Francis Bacon, thought that you should start from a particular point and apply it to the general. For instance, in this chart, observation and experiment leads to generalizations, which then leads to the paradigm or theory. This is opposed to deductive reasoning, which starts at the theory, makes predictions, and then has an experiment that either confirms or refutes the theory. Bacon preferred inductive reasoning because he thought it frees scientists' minds of opinions that might distort the truth. We now turn to those who applied logic and reason to the new social sciences. We begin with Adam Smith. He was a Scottish philosopher and studied natural economic laws that governed human society. Smith and like-minded theorists worked together. Their works led to the modern discipline that we know of today as economics. Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations asserted that the state should not interfere with economic matters by imposing regulations on the economy. This is known as laissez-faire. It roughly translates to let the people do as they wish. It was also very important to the later development of capitalism. At this time, most European court systems dealt only in cruel punishments. This visual depicts the rack. This device, what it would do is the victims were stretched from hands and feet until they heard loud popping noises, and these popping noises were made by the snapping of cartilage, ligaments, and bones. This was part interrogation technique, but also part punishment to deter future crime. However, Cesare Beccaria, on crimes and punishments, reasoned that cruel and capital punishments such as the rack and executions did not deter others from committing crimes. In fact, he thought it set the precedent for further barbarism. Our first discussion question is, according to Smith, which is not a role of government? Is it to protect society from invasion, place tariffs on imports to protect merchants, defend citizens from injustices, or build public works such as roads? The answer is B. Remember, laissez-faire doctrine thought that there should be limited government intervention in the marketplace. However, he did think that there was a role for government, such as protection from invasion, defending citizens from injustice, and building public works. Those were needed. What he did not like was when the government interfered with the markets. We next turn to the spread of Enlightenment ideas. From upper classes to middle classes, and from salons to pulpits, the ideas of the Enlightenment spread, starting in Europe, but eventually throughout the world. One of the most famous Enlightenment philosophers was Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who wrote particularly about governments. Rousseau wrote The Social Contract, in which the society agrees to be governed by its general will. A social contract is an agreement between the government and the governed. He also proposed that if the government broke this contract, the people have a right to revolt, also known as the right to revolution. This idea greatly influenced the Founding Fathers during our own American Revolution. Because the general will represents what is best for the community, according to Rousseau, he said that liberty could be achieved if people were forced to follow the general will. He also wrote about women in education. He thought that education should foster children's natural instincts, and that women should receive education on how to be mothers and wives. As you can expect, many at the time disagreed with his views towards women's role in society. One such dissenter was Mary Wollstonecraft, and she's viewed as the founder of the women's rights movement in Europe and America. She debunked the idea of male domination by comparing it to the relationship between monarchs and subjects, which almost all of the Enlightenment thinkers claimed was essentially wrong. The Enlightenment also witnessed the growth of publishing and reading. Books were written for a literate middle class, and many newspapers and magazines appeared. Enlightenment ideas were also spread through the salons of upper-class homes. There, writers, artists, philosophers, government officials, aristocrats, and even wealthy middle-class individuals conversed about Enlightenment ideas, which spread these ideas throughout the continent. And although many of the philosophers attacked the church, most were still Christians and believed that religion was central to European life. In England, John Wesley began a new movement known as Methodism. Wesley stressed hard work and religious contention with his preaching. Methodist societies also helped influence abolition of the slave trade and later the abolition of slavery altogether in America. Final discussion question. According to Rousseau, who is bound together by the social contract? Man and woman, rich and poor, government and governed, or employers and workers? The answer is government and governed. And this concludes our Enlightenment screencast.